Hi everyone, welcome to week 11 of Heart to Heart. This week we will be talking about chapter 11 of Men, Women, and the Mystery of Love, and this chapter is titled, How Contraception Harms Love. So obviously in our society a lot of people have differing viewpoints on contraception. It's a very hot button issue. Many people think that it's good and many people think that it's bad, and it's hard to have a conversation about it because it is such a sensitive topic. And there are a lot of people who believe that taking birth control pills and practicing other forms of contraception is okay, and it doesn't harm anyone or any relationship or anything like that. But then there are some people who would disagree and say that it is harmful, and John Paul II is one of them, and he shows how contraception is harmful to love. So whether or not you think contraception is a good thing or a bad thing, I just invite you to have an open heart and listen to what he has to say about it. And he's very informational, he's very truthful, and you can learn a lot from his teachings on it. So, we are going to get started. Alright, so what is contraception? The Catholic Church says that contraception, sometimes referred to as birth control, artificial birth control, or family planning, refers to the prevention of pregnancy by use of mechanical devices, such as cervical caps, diaphragms, IUDs, and condoms, or chemicals, such as the pill, the patch, and injectables, like Depo-Provera. These methods are typically reversible. People can stop using them to try to conceive. Sterilization, on the other hand, is a permanent surgical procedure that renders a woman or man infertile and is very difficult to reverse. Contraception and sterilization are not neutral medicine. They work against the natural gift of fertility, treating pregnancy as if it were a disease, and fertility as if it were a pathological condition. Some methods can also act to prevent implantation, causing the early death of a newly conceived human being. And a Kids Health site defines it as, the birth control pill, also called the pill, is a daily pill that contains hormones to change the way the body works and prevent pregnancy. Hormones are chemical substances that control the functioning of the body's organs. In this case, the hormones in the pill control the ovaries and the uterus. How does it work? Most birth control pills are combination pills, containing a combination of the hormones estrogen and progesterone to prevent ovulation, the release of an egg during the monthly cycle. A woman cannot get pregnant if she doesn't ovulate because there is no egg to be fertilized. The pill also works by thickening the mucus around the cervix, which makes it difficult for sperm to enter the uterus and reach any eggs that may have been released. The hormones in the pill can also sometimes affect the lining of the uterus, making it difficult for an egg to attach to the wall of the uterus. Alright, so basically we can all agree on the definition of contraception. Both of those definitions were pretty similar, and we all kind of understand now what contraception is. So, John Paul II talks about 4 ways that contraception can destroy love between a husband and wife in marriage. So we're going to go through each of these 4 ways and kind of break them down even more, and it's really an interesting way in how he breaks them down and talks about them, but it's a way that makes sense, and it's a lot of information, but it's very helpful and very, very beneficial if you just don't know a lot about contraception, or you want to learn more, or you already have your opinion completely formed. This can help you have more information about it, whether you're for it or against it. So, John Paul II says that contraception does not allow the sexual relations between husband and wife to become a true union of persons because it is not accepting the possibility of parenthood. Contraception is a rejection of the other person because there is no full union of love. Contraception is a rejection of the possibility of parenthood in sexual intercourse. Contraception is the avoidance of having a family. Alright, so those are the 4 ways that he says that it can be detrimental to a love between a husband and wife in marriage. So we're going to go through each of these, and Dr. Shree breaks them down in the book, so I'm going to talk about that. So, number 1, contraception does not allow the sexual relations between a husband and wife to become a true union of persons because it is not accepting the possibility of parenthood. Alright, so sexual union itself does not automatically bring about a true union of love. There are other things that go into it. One key ingredient needed to make this union between a man and a woman an expression of a deeper personal union of love is a willingness to accept the possibility that through the sexual act, for men, I may become a father, and for women, I may become a mother. It is, this key ingredient is an openness to the possibility of parenthood, and it is crucial if love is to mature in marriage. It represents one of the most profound expressions of love and total acceptance of the other person in marriage. And the openness to life increases the love between spouses because they're looking outward together at this potential new life that may come from their love. And that is one of the most selfless things that you can do for your spouse. And so basically, you can't have a true union of persons if you're taking away part of the freedom of the sexual act and the freedom that it's meant to have. So that's what this first point is talking about, basically. His second point, contraception is a rejection of the other person because there is no full union of love. So a sexual relationship that rejects the possibility of parenthood will be based on the sexual values of the other person, the aspects that bring about physical and emotional pleasure. So basically, when you're not open to the possibility of having a parent, or being a parent, you are basically, it's a rejection of moving forward in this life of raising a child with this other person, and you're looking more at the pleasure that you can get out of the sexual act rather than embarking on the possibility of this beautiful journey. So instead of being viewed as a co-creator of love, the spouse is now seen primarily as a partner in a pleasurable experience. John Paul II says, quote, "The will should be wholly concerned with that person's good, the heart filled with affirmation of that person's specific value." However, if this is not the case in the sexual act between husband and wife, it is not an act of selflessness, but an act of selfishness. So basically, contraception is a rejection of the other person, and you can't form a full union of love because, again, you're taking away that freedom of that act, and you're focusing on your the pleasure that you can get out of it. And it's very selfish, actually. It becomes very selfish because you're not open to embarking on the journey of raising children or becoming a parent with that other person, and you're not open to that part of it at all. And that's part of the sexual act that God has created to have for spouses to have in marriage. So the third point that John Paul II says is contraception is a rejection of the possibility of parenthood in sexual intercourse because there is not a desire to procreate. Sexual intercourse is needed for the good of deepening the marital relationship, not just for procreation. So couples should be open to the possibility of new life coming from sexual relations, but they do not have to enter sexual relations with the specific intention to have a child. So basically what that's saying is you can engage in sex with your spouse, but you don't have to have the specific intention of like creating a child from that act, as long as you are open to the possibility of it. Periodic continence is what John Paul II calls the time during which a couple does not desire the conception of a child and abstains from having sex. So this is basically what it says it is. It's just a time where couples don't have sex because they either they just don't have a desire to have a child at that moment, whether it's financial reasons or they have children and they're discerning whether God wants to give them another child, or whatever the case it may be. So periodic continence is like a beautiful way of opening up other forms of showing love for your spouse instead of sexual intercourse. And it's a way that husbands and wives will just abstain from having sex because they know they can't have children at that moment. So many Catholics practice this using the method known as natural family planning, or NFP, as maybe you've heard of that. So this is the general title for the scientific, natural, and moral methods of family planning that can help married couples either achieve or postpone pregnancies. NFP methods are based on the observation of the naturally occurring signs and symptoms of the fertile and infertile phases of a woman's menstrual cycle. No drugs, devices, or surgical procedures are used to avoid pregnancy in this in NFP. Since the methods of NFP respect the love-giving and life-giving nature of the conjugal act, they support God's design for married love. So Catholics use NFP as a way to practice periodic continence and know how to achieve or postpone pregnancies. And it's a really beautiful way because it's natural. Obviously, it's in the name, natural family planning, but there's nothing artificial or outside used for it. So basically, no contraception is in that plan. So the fourth and final point that John Paul II talks about is contraception is the avoidance of having a family. So a family forms a natural community, and it can contribute to the education and upbringing of children that helps shape them and who they are going to be. Contraception shouldn't be used to limit the size of a family. So many couples will have children and not use contraception at all, and then when they want to engage in the sexual act, but they definitely don't want to have any more kids, they start using contraception. And that's not what it should be used for. It should not be used to limit the size of a family. You should be open to life no matter what, whenever you are engaging in the sexual act. And practicing periodic continence is good. Learning about the methods in NFP is good as well. And basically just learning about how you can naturally and basically naturally plan for when to have children and when not to have children. And but contraception should never be a form of limiting the size of a family. So periodic continence is a method of regulating conception. As a method of regulating conception is permissible insofar as it does not conflict with a sincere disposition to procreate. That was a quote from the book. In other words, spouses should not avoid pregnancy at all costs. So basically, periodic continence should not be forever, or contraception should not be forever. Artificial forms of it. You should never just completely commit to not having children in married life. You should always be open to the possibility of having children. So, sex is for two reasons: babies and bonding, simplified. If we take one of these out of the equation, it's no longer the kind of loving act that God intended it to be. So, we can't develop a deeper love for the other person, and it's not a free and fruitful act anymore. So, strong marriages equal strong families, which equals a strong society. I think we can all agree on that. And contraception does not allow these to develop. It rejects love and this free act of selflessness in marriages, like, right off the bat. So if we don't have strong marriages because of contraception, we can't have strong families, and therefore we can't have strong societies. So it's a ripple effect, and it affects a lot of people and a lot of situations, and a lot of people don't understand that or realize it. So it just doesn't allow strong societies to develop, basically, which is a really scary thought. So we really need to just educate ourselves and think about, like, how contraception actually is affecting us and the way we live. Contraception is a direct rejection to God's plan. Basically. Sorry for all of you who didn't realize that, but it's a direct rejection to God's plan, because God said in Genesis chapter 1, "Be fruitful and multiply." He said that. Like, he told us to do that. And that was his plan for humanity. That's how we're going to continue living on Earth, is if we procreate. And contraception does not allow a woman to be fruitful and bring children into the world. Plain and simple. And it prevents her from being able to do this. So the constant use of contraception in people today is going to have a really detrimental effect to our society. I don't think a lot of people realize that. So basically, I found on that same Kids Health site some more things that it says about the pill. So, protection against STDs. The birth control pill does not protect against STDs. Couples having sex must always use condoms along with the pill to protect against STDs. Abstinence, the decision to not have sex, is the only method that prevents pregnancy and STDs. Possible side effects. The birth control pill is a safe and effective method of birth control. Most young women who take the pill have none to very few side effects. The side effects that some women have while on the pill include irregular menstrual bleeding, nausea, headaches, dizziness, and breast tenderness, mood changes, and blood clots. Rare in women under 35 who do not smoke. Okay. And then it says, myth versus fact. It's a common myth that birth control pills cause fertility problems later on, but that's not the case. Okay. And then what the Catholic Church says about all of this is, do some contraceptives pose health risks? Yes. The use and availability of contraceptives is linked to the increased spread of sexually transmitted diseases. Casual sex encouraged by widely available contraception has resulted in about 60 million Americans being infected with one or more sexually transmitted diseases, many of them incurable and emotionally devastating. The estimated cost of treating these illnesses is now $19 billion a year in the U.S. alone. Planned Parenthood and secular sex educators recommend using condoms for protection against STDs, yet condoms offer almost no protection against the epidemic of incurable viral STDs, such as genital herpes and human papillomavirus, HPV. strains of which cause genital warts and virtually all cases of cervical cancer. Numerous studies have found that typical condom use offers inadequate or little protection against even bacterial STDs, such as chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Hormonal contraceptives themselves have inherent health risks. Synthetic hormones powerful enough to disrupt a woman's reproductive system may affect every major system of her body. Depending on the type and strength of the hormonal contraceptive, over 5% of women experience some of the following symptoms: headaches, weight gain, acne, mood swings, depression, anxiety, breast pain, dizziness, severe pain during menses, a range of bleeding problems, and a lack of desire for sex. In the case of Depo-Provera, there can be a 5 to 6% loss of bone mineral density after 5 years' use, which is only partially reversed in the years after discontinuation. Among the less common side effects of hormonal contraceptives are the following: blood clots in the veins, lungs, heart, and brain, potentially causing heart attack and strokes; breast cancer, potentially life-threatening ectopic pregnancy, in which the embryo most often implants in the narrow tube between the ovary and womb; liver tumors, and ovarian cysts. The link between hormonal contraceptives and breast cancer has been known for over 30 years. The World Health Organization has classified synthetic estrogen and progestin in contraceptives as carcinogenic to humans. According to a major meta-analysis, women who use oral contraceptives before age 20 have a 1.95% elevated risk of developing breast cancer. All right, so contraception is bad for women, not just marriages and families. If contraception is not good for women and has all of those side effects, how then are we going to keep our society going through this if we keep using contraception, basically? The website basically said, okay, these are possible side effects. So these are kind of important side effects, don't you think? And that's not even all of them. From the usccb.org picture that I showed, there are a lot of side effects of birth control, and they're all really, really bad. They're not just light matters that you can kind of just pass by. They're pretty important things, and they can be really detrimental to women. And they're just like, oh, well, these are just some side effects. But the list kind of goes on. And then the crazy thing is that one site said myth versus fact, and they said that a myth is that women who use contraceptives will not have fertility problems later on. And that's a complete lie. So the thing that they're saying is a myth is actually truth. And the usccb.org page proves that, because it says that you can have potentially threatening ectopic pregnancy, ovarian cysts, like all of these things are going to affect whether you can or can't have kids. And that's really scary, and that's really sad. And the fact that people think that putting artificial hormones into their body is a good thing, just think about that for a second. Like, the people who say contraception is good are basically saying that putting artificial hormones in your body is a good thing. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. So just think about that, really, as you continue to learn about contraception or develop your own opinion about it or do research about it. Just really think about these things and think about, is this really helping us to fulfill God's plan for humanity, basically? Or is it rejecting his plan and in the meantime destroying relationships, marriages, and women's bodies? And we need women in order to procreate. So just think about all these things, and then decide if contraception is good or bad. And again, it talks a lot about this in Genesis, when in the creation story, about Adam and Eve and how good their relationship was and how they were able to procreate and things like that. And you can do research as well. There are other stories that talk about contraception in the Bible, but really do your research and really think about it, because obviously it's not a hot button issue for nothing. It's a very sensitive topic, and I think John Paul II does a wonderful job of breaking it down. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week. Bye!